In the bustling town of Umuahia, nestled in southeastern Nigeria, lived a woman whose beauty and poise captivated everyone who crossed her path. Ijeoma Nwachukwu was the epitome of elegance and grace, a devoted wife to her husband, Chukwuma, and a caring mother to their two children, Ada and Chijioke. She worked as a teacher in the local secondary school and was known for her intelligence and sharp wit. Her husband, Chukwuma, was a charismatic businessman who often traveled to nearby cities for work. Though charming, Chukwuma had a weakness: his roving eyes. For years, Ijeoma dismissed whispers of his infidelity as mere gossip, choosing to trust the man she had vowed to spend her life with. But as the saying goes, nothing hidden under the sun stays hidden forever. One rainy afternoon, Ijeoma returned home earlier than expected due to a school meeting being cancelled. As she approached their bungalow, she noticed a strange pair of slippers outside the door. Her heart skipped a beat. Quietly entering the house, she followed the sound of hushed laughter coming from their bedroom. There he was, Chukwuma, with a young woman, their bodies entangled like vines. Ijeoma's breath caught, but she didn't scream. Instead, she retreated silently, her mind racing. That evening, she acted as though nothing had happened. She served dinner, helped the children with their homework, and even laughed at Chukwuma's stories about his supposed business meetings. But deep inside, something had snapped. Ijeoma decided she wouldn't confront Chukwuma outright. Instead, she would play a long, calculated game to ensure her dignity remained intact while teaching him a lesson he'd never forget. She began her plan with subtle changes. First, she focused on herself. She started waking up earlier, jogging in the mornings, and eating healthier. Her wardrobe, once filled with practical outfits, now included vibrant dresses and stylish heels. She began attending events and rekindled old friendships, projecting an aura of confidence that turned heads wherever she went. Chukwuma noticed. "Ij, what's with all the new clothes?" he asked one evening, his tone laced with suspicion. "Oh, nothing," she replied with a sly smile. "I just thought it was time to take better care of myself." Next, Ijeoma started leaving subtle hints to make Chukwuma uneasy. She'd receive calls and step out of the room to take them, lowering her voice just enough for him to hear her laughter through the door. Occasionally, she'd come home late, claiming she had meetings with a colleague. When he pressed for details, she'd smile mysteriously and say, "You wouldn't know them." Chukwuma's once unshakable confidence began to falter. He started watching her more closely, but Ijeoma was always one step ahead. She never gave him any concrete reason to accuse her, leaving him frustrated and paranoid. One day, Ijeoma suggested they host a dinner party. "We've been so busy lately. It would be nice to reconnect with our friends," she said. Chukwuma reluctantly agreed. During the dinner, Ijeoma's charm was on full display. She engaged their guests with lively conversations and laughed at their jokes, but her attention lingered just a bit too long on one of Chukwuma's friends, Emeka. Chukwuma's jaw tightened as he watched Emeka lean in to whisper something to his wife, who laughed and placed a hand on his arm. After the guests left, Chukwuma couldn't hold back. "What's going on between you and Emeka?" he demanded. Ijeoma looked at him, feigning surprise. "Emeka? Don't be ridiculous. We were just talking about politics." But Chukwuma's jealousy had been ignited. For the first time in their marriage, he felt the sting of insecurity. Over the next several weeks, Ijeoma intensified her psychological warfare. She began posting photos on social media of herself at various events, always looking radiant and surrounded by friends, male and female alike. She signed up for a book club, joined a fitness class, and even began volunteering at a local charity. Her days were packed, and her evenings were filled with phone calls and laughter. To further her plans, she subtly changed her interactions with Chukwuma. She started greeting him with a distant kindness, a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. When he asked about her day, her responses were curt but polite. She started sleeping on the edge of the bed, claiming she needed more space. Chukwuma's suspicions grew. He started questioning her about her whereabouts, but she always had a plausible explanation. "Oh, I was at the women's meeting," she'd say. "Didn't I mention it?" One evening, she returned home wearing a necklace that Chukwuma hadn't seen before. "Who gave you that?" he asked, his voice tinged with jealousy. "Oh, it's just something I picked up at the market," she replied with a smile. But the truth was, it was a gift from one of her colleagues, a harmless gesture, but she knew how it would fuel Chukwuma's imagination. As months went by, Ijioma's new life blossomed. She joined a local NGO and started organizing events that brought her closer to influential people in the community. Her reputation grew, and so did her independence. She even started saving money secretly, knowing that her plan to leave Chukwuma would soon come to fruition. Meanwhile, Chukwuma began to spiral. He started arriving home earlier than usual, hoping to catch her in the act of some imagined indiscretion. He combed through her phone whenever she left it unattended, but he found nothing incriminating. His frustration grew, and with it, his desperation. One afternoon, Chukwuma arrived at her school unannounced. He sat through her class, watching as she taught with passion and elegance. The male colleagues who greeted her warmly only added to his paranoia. After the class, he pulled her aside. "Ij, what's going on? You're not the same woman I married." Ijeoma smiled serenely. "Maybe you never really knew the woman you married." Finally, one evening, Chukwuma exploded. "Ijeoma, I know something is going on. You've changed. You're always out, always laughing with someone on the phone." "Who is he?" Ijeoma looked at him calmly. "Chukwuma, if I've changed, it's because I had to. I realized I've been living in your shadow for too long. Now, I'm finding myself again." Her words struck a chord. Chukwuma was at a loss for words. For the first time, he saw the depth of the woman he had taken for granted. Months passed, and Ijeoma continued her psychological warfare, each move carefully calculated. She never outright accused Chukwuma of infidelity, but her newfound independence and the subtle changes in her behavior made him uneasy. He became more attentive, trying to win back her affection, but Ijeoma remained distant. Finally, one evening, Ijeoma announced she had been offered a teaching position at a prestigious private school in Enugu. "It's a great opportunity for me and the children," she said, packing her bags. Chukwuma was stunned. "What do you mean, you're leaving?" "I've thought about it for a long time," she replied calmly. "I need to focus on myself and my career. Besides, you've been so busy with work, I'm sure you'll hardly notice we're gone." As she drove away with the children that night, Chukwuma stood in the doorway, realizing too late the depth of his mistakes. In Enugu, Ijeoma thrived. She excelled in her new job, found joy in raising her children, and even started a side business selling handmade jewelry. Her story became an inspiration to many women in the community, a testament to resilience and self-worth. Ijeoma also began writing a column for a women's magazine, sharing stories of empowerment and personal growth. Her insights resonated with readers across the country, and soon she was invited to speak at conferences and workshops. Each achievement solidified her independence and her resolve. As for Chukwuma, he tried to win her back, sending gifts and letters filled with apologies. He even visited Enugu, pleading for forgiveness. But Ijeoma had moved on. She had learned the power of self-love and refused to settle for anything less. One day, Ada asked her, "Ma, do you think Daddy will ever change?" Ijeoma smiled and hugged her daughter. "People only change when they truly want to. But sometimes, it's better to focus on our own happiness and let others find their way." In the end, Ijeoma's intelligence and determination turned what could have been a tale of heartbreak into a story of empowerment, proving that sometimes, the best revenge is living well. Months after settling into her new life, Ijeoma began reflecting on her journey. She thought of her younger self, the woman who once believed marriage was the ultimate goal, the pinnacle of happiness. Now, she understood that happiness was not something bestowed by another person but something cultivated from within. She began journaling her thoughts, penning advice for women who found themselves trapped in similar situations. Her reflections became a book titled Rising from Shadows, A Journey of Self-Discovery, which became a bestseller across Nigeria. Women from all walks of life wrote to her, sharing how her story had inspired them to reclaim their voices. Her new circle of friends in Enugu included accomplished women who shared her vision of empowerment. Together, they started a support group called Nwanibuwife, A Woman is Strength, which provided mentorship and resources for women in abusive or unfulfilling relationships. One day, Chukwuma showed up at her doorstep in Enugu, his eyes filled with regret. "Ijeoma, I know I failed you. But I'm a changed man now. I want to make things right." Ijeoma listened to him, her expression calm but resolute. "Chukwuma, I appreciate your words, but I've moved on. My life now is about growth, not going backward. I hope you find your path, just as I've found mine." As she closed the door, a sense of closure washed over her. The chapter with Chukwuma was finally closed, and she could fully embrace the new life she had built. Years later, as Ijeoma watched her children graduate from university, she felt a deep sense of pride. Ada had inherited her mother's strength and passion, while Chijioke displayed a wisdom beyond his years. They often told her how much they admired her courage and resilience. Ijeoma's journey became a legacy, a story passed down to inspire future generations. It was a reminder that no matter how dark the storm, the sun always rises, bringing light and hope to those who dare to chase it. Years passed, and Ijeoma found herself at the center of a thriving community of women who had found their strength through her story. She invested in local businesses and opened a vocational school for women, teaching them skills that could provide financial independence. Her influence grew beyond Enugu, and she was frequently invited to speak at international conferences about women's empowerment in Africa. During one such conference in Nairobi, Ijeoma shared the stage with other influential African women. Her message was clear: resilience, independence, and self-love were the keys to overcoming life's challenges. The audience gave her a standing ovation, moved by her authenticity and the clarity of her vision. As she returned to Enugu, Ijeoma reflected on her journey with gratitude. She knew her life had turned into something much greater than she ever imagined, a beacon of hope for women across the continent. And with every step forward, she carried the wisdom of her experiences, proving that no obstacle was insurmountable when one chose to rise.